This video is sponsored by NordVPN.
You want a big smartphone, triple cameras on the back, super impressive performance and battery life, a custom side button. Interestingly, OnePlus and Apple are the two options for you in 2025, at least in North America. And these two phones are surprisingly comparable despite their vastly different target audiences. So let's talk about a seriously interesting comparison at the moment. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and let's get the obvious out of the way immediately. The iPhone 17 Pro Max costs $1,200, where the OnePlus 15 is about $1,000. So we're starting out with the OnePlus ahead, but I don't think that should totally make up your decision before we've delved into it, because whilst on paper the OnePlus 15 really does have the iPhone's number, there are some key considerations to make on both sides actually, besides the price. So let's talk about that after a quick word from today's sponsor.
One of the most convenient and handy inventions of the last few years is certainly a VPN, and that's where this video's sponsor NordVPN comes in. Not only does this service help you browse anonymously, tunneling your network traffic through another region which helps secure your connection, but it's also just really handy for watching programs, movies and sports that you just wouldn't get in your home version of Netflix, for example. Or if like me you're a die-hard Premier League fanatic and you go on holiday, being able to log into your streaming services just as you normally would without a fuss is brilliant, and NordVPN allows you to do that. It works on Mac, Windows, iOS and our beloved Android. It's easy to install and get set up. If you go to nordvpn.com/androidpolice, you'll get up to 77% off a 2-year plan and 4 months extra for free. So check that link out in the video description, and a big thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring today's content.
I want to kick things off by talking about cameras here, because from a broad spec sheet standpoint, triple 50 megapixel cameras does just sound better than triple 48 megapixel cameras, but that isn't really the case here. All three rear cameras on the iPhone are larger in sensor size than the OnePlus, which is surprising if you have become used to what OnePlus has put out over the last couple of years. And the iPhone's versatile square selfie camera, I feel like is a level above what OnePlus is doing with its front-facing camera at the moment. Where the iPhone's camera this year, I feel just isn't really the best available from a quality standpoint. OnePlus has lost so much of its momentum, and so these are a lot closer than the other comparisons I've made to the 15 this year. That said, I think a lot of this is going to come down to ultimately what kind of software processing you prefer out of your smartphone camera. Neither of these is particularly impressive in long-range zoom photos, though they do things very differently, where the OnePlus likes to smooth out micro contrast and create almost a watercolor look at 40 times and pushing all the way up to 120 times. The iPhone smoothens seemingly everything, but in a much more natural way. Neither can hold a candle to the Pixel 10 Pro and Pro XL, so yeah, the long-range zooms here just aren't that good. Generally, I found that I preferred the iPhone's images, particularly with the 1x main lens, though there were certainly some exceptions and times where I thought the OnePlus images looked better as well. And in video, the iPhone handily beats the OnePlus across the board. Sure, there's no 8K recording on the 17 Pro Max, but honestly that shouldn't dissuade you at all, because in my testing, the better footage came from the iPhone, regardless whether it was in Ultra HD 4K 60, 4K 120, and thankfully both have versions of log recording, which is brilliant, but I think the iPhone's ProRes and ProRes RAW formats are just the best pro options in a smartphone at the moment. The iPhone's camera is perhaps the biggest reason to go with it over the OnePlus, which I appreciate is not the top of everybody's priorities list, but in 2025 your top model has to have a good camera, and unfortunately OnePlus isn't quite there yet. But perhaps the second biggest reason to go with the iPhone is the display, and once again this is where the on-paper numbers just really don't tell the full story at all. Both phones have big screens, small bezels, get really bright, but in every scenario I tested these phones in, side by side, not only was the iPhone screen brighter, but also tuned to my eye quite a lot punchier out of the box, but not in an unnatural way. And that means that day to day, playing games, watching content, browsing menus, doom scrolling, basically anything you can do on a phone, the iPhone was just better. The 15's display is really quite good, but it's not at the level of the iPhone. One trick the OnePlus 15 screen does have up its sleeve is the ability to shoot up from 120Hz, where both of these phones are normally sat, to 165Hz in particular games, which is cool to have, but realistically is reserved for such a small niche set of games that day to day you're just not going to notice this difference, which is a real shame. And speaking of playing games, these two are perhaps some of the very best phones you can buy for that particular task in North America in particular. Both phones are absolutely rapid, and it doesn't seem to matter what game you throw at them, they will run absolutely fine. Now on paper, the OnePlus 15's hardware does push a little bit further than what Apple is doing with its processor, but this isn't a sort of OnePlus and Pixel comparison. No, these are a lot closer than that. And honestly, you'd be hard pressed to really feel a difference between these two when playing games side by side. The same goes for general performance, as you might expect. Both are very impressive and should stay quick for a long time if their predecessors are anything to go by. These two are the sorts of phones you would hold on to for like 5 years in terms of performance, though the iPhone software should see an extra year or two of updates over the OnePlus, which might sway your decision one way or the other. And actually, the software in general is quite wildly different here. I'm not going to try and sit here and convert you to iOS or to Android, because there's probably one you prefer. However, I will say that I had fewer bugs with the OnePlus 15, which is running Oxygen OS 16 based on Android 16, though there is certainly more to play with iOS 26 from an AI perspective if that's something you're into. It's a bit of a mixed bag. Personally, I prefer what OnePlus is doing with its software, but that's just me. I'm always saying specs don't matter, and at least they don't tell the full story, but I think nowhere is this actually clearer than with the batteries in these devices. 7,300 mAh versus 4,823 doesn't even seem like a competition. But yeah, these are a lot closer than you'd expect. The OnePlus 15 goes further. It can be a 3-day phone for the right person, where the 17 Pro Max is more a 2-day phone for that kind of person. But both of these phones can be 2-day if you're not particularly hard on your device, and if you're a bit more of a power user, all-day phones, absolutely no problem. Apple's optimizations within its software, and of course its own processor, make it super efficient, even up against a beast in the OnePlus 15. But of course the latter does pull a bigger lead when we consider charging as well. 120 watt super fast wired, 50 watt wireless, it just absolutely smokes the iPhone's top up speeds, and that might matter to you, but I think for most people who charge their phones overnight, it's really not going to make a difference. Something I really did not expect coming into this was the OnePlus 15 quite handily beating the iPhone 17 Pro Max in its fit and finish, its feeling in the hand, its hardware design, where the iPhone's apparently very scratchable, awkwardly shaped, quite strange design stands out compared to previous models in a bad way. OnePlus has actually gone the other way. It's majorly stepped up this year in its hardware design. The 15's camera bump is less extreme than last year, its sides are way easier to grip, the rear glass coating is almost uniquely grippy, it is fantastic. It's probably one of the best designed smartphones I've used in recent years, especially compared with its predecessors. And the cherry to go on top is the fact that, of course, it's IP6 9K rated to go along with the IP6 8 ratings that both of these phones have. Of course, where both have customizable side buttons located on the left, the iPhone also has its camera control slider, which honestly isn't something to worth caring about in my opinion, but it is there if you want it. And the headline colours this year are very, very different, as you can see. I'm personally in favour of that purple, I think it looks fantastic, but I'd love to hear what you think about this in the comments. Face ID compares quite nicely to the ultrasonic fingerprint reader of the OnePlus, but I would take the latter every day of the week, and of course as a result you have to put up with that big old punch hole on the iPhone versus the more subdued one in the OnePlus. Overall, the iPhone is the better all-round package thanks to its higher quality and more consistent camera, along with a generally better tuned display. However, if all you're after is performance and battery life and you want to save $200, the OnePlus 15 is a serious prospect. Guys, which of these two would you buy if you had the money, or would you instead pick something else? I'm thinking maybe a discounted S25 Ultra, but I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think, and whilst you're down there, please do hit like if you enjoyed today's content and subscribe to never miss another upload. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I will catch you later. Cheers.